Hi, welcome to the lesson 6 of Introduction to Botany. This lesson, or micro lesson, whatever you want to call it, is going to be about the evolution of plants, so strap in. Earth before plants. Now, Earth before plants was barren and inhospitable. There wasn't any flowers, there wasn't any plants, there wasn't any food webs as we know them. There was very low oxygen levels, and there wasn't any complex life on land, and this is because plants are essential for oxygen production via photosynthesis. They're the primary producer at the bottom of most food chains, and they support nearly all terrestrial ecosystems. So, if that was the case, and there wasn't any plants making all this great stuff for everything else, then how'd they get here? Well, in the endosymbiotic theory, in that early life, about 1.5 billion years ago, is that life consisted of a single-celled organism. They were mostly aquatic, which is like prokaryotes, which had simple cells, no organelles, and you had eukaryotes, which are cells with membrane-bound organelles. And then you had endosymbiosis. This is where a single eukaryotic cell engulfed the cyanobacterium. And instead of digesting it, the cyanobacterium survived inside that host cell. That cyanobacterium contained photosynthesis while providing sugars to the host cell. Over time, that symbiotic relationship evolved into chloroplast. Now, I know what you're thinking, because I essentially just said one cell ate another cell about 1.5 billion years ago, and that turned into all the lush, green, beautiful gardens that you see, and all the plants and trees outside. But there is evidence for it. Chloroplasts have their own DNA, which is similar to bacterial DNA, and it has two membranes, the inner one from the cyanobacterium and the outer one from the host. So this does support the idea that chloroplasts were once free-living bacteria. So, evolution happened. In botany, the definition of evolution is that there's a change in allele frequencies within a population over time. And that evolution occurs at the population level, not individual organisms. So a single individual mutation in, say, an individual specimen doesn't add up unless it keeps going. Now, moving forward, you'll want a key genetics vocabulary. You have DNA, which is genetic material encoding traits. You have a gene, which is a sequence of DNA that codes for a trait. Then you have allele, which is different versions of a gene. You have a trait, which is an observable characteristic. Then you have an allele frequency, and this is a proportion of a specific allele in a population. Now, you're probably wondering how to make sense of all this. So let's start with an easy example. We have a tomato, and inside that tomato, there is different genetics that determine what color it's going to be. So let's say there's two different genetics. There's an LLC, which is a dominant red gene. And then there's allele C, but it's recessive, and that might make it a yellow color. Now, most of those tomatoes are going to be turning out red. A small amount of them would be turning out yellow. I think the exact one is 3/4 would be red and 1/4 would be yellow. I might be wrong. I'd have to go over it again. But going on that, so you have the majority is going to be red, either way. Now, if those allele frequencies or those colors start to change over time and start to change over generations, then evolution has occurred at some kind of level. And there's a handful of forces that drive evolution, also known as the 5 forces of evolution. There's genetic drift, which is random. There's natural selection, which is non-random. There's mutation, gene flow, and non-random mating, and I'll get into each one of these. So, genetic drift is random. It means that there's a change in allele frequencies due to a chance events, and it's strongest in small populations. An example would be like natural disasters, like tornadoes or floods, and these can drastically alter allele frequencies unrelated to fitness of an individual or population. And there's natural selection, which is non-random. This is when individuals with traits that increase survival and reproduction pass on those traits more frequently. This leads to adaptations, and the environment determines which traits are favored. And there's mutation. These are random changes in DNA sequence. It creates new alleles. And it's usually neutral or harmful, with occasionally beneficial mutations that occur, and it's the source of all genetic variation. Then you have gene flow. That's movement of alleles between populations via migration can increase genetic diversity and reduce differences between populations. And finally, you have non-random mating. This is when individuals themselves choose mates based on specific traits. It includes assortative mating and self-fertilization in plants. This does not change allele frequencies. This alters genotype frequencies, affecting natural selection. Now, with studying plant evolution, scientists use multiple lines of evidence. They have comparative anatomy, which is where similar structures indicate common ancestry. They have paleobotany, which is a study of plant fossils, and these reveal extinct species and evolutionary transitions. And you have a molecular biology. That's DNA sequencing to track genetic changes over time. Now, over the evolutionary history of plants, there was 3 major evolutionary steps that occurred. There's symbiotic ancestors, which are multicellular organisms. Some descendants remained aquatic, which is green algae, and others adapted to the land, which is land plants. Now, adaptations for life on land was preventing water loss, structural support overall, specialized life cycles, and reproductive strategies independent of water. And the impact of plants transformed Earth's atmosphere and ecosystem. It influenced evolution of animals, like pollinators, and diversified into hundreds of thousands of species that we know today. And the evolutionary trees, or phylogenies, is a diagram showing evolutionary relationships. There's different branch points or nodes which represent most recent common ancestors. There's time flows from roots, our earliest ancestors, and tips to modern species. And groups closer to the tree are more closely related. Now, if I could summarize plant evolution real quickly, I'll be getting into it more in depth in future episodes, but right now it would be that mosses evolved before ferns evolved before seed plants, and flowering plants evolved most recently. Now, if you could take away anything from this, it would be that plants originated through endosymbiosis. Evolution occurs via changes in allele frequencies. There's 5 evolutionary forces that drive genetic change. Plants adapted to the land and reshaped life on Earth. And phylogenies help trace plant evolutionary history. Thank you for watching this episode 6 of Introduction to Botany. I'd love to see you in more episodes in the future, and remember to subscribe if you want to get updated on any botanical or plant content that I post in general.